All right, good morning, everyone. Are y'all ready to be uplifted? My name is George Boyd Jr. I'm the minister at the Wheeling Church of Christ here in Greenville, Texas. And so this morning I want to uplift you and continue in this exposition of Psalm 23, and we are in verse 2. And we will not be long today, but I want to give you some things to take with you to take along on your busy day. Because Psalm 23:2 really requires some explanation. And I think when you look at where David was and what his mindset is as far as what he's thinking, I think it's going to bless our lives. But when we think about the fact that David said, he makes me lie down. And I want you to go back and envision that David has already said, the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want. So he's talking about the fact that God is leading him, but I want us to gravitate towards, it says, he makes me. What it means when it says he makes me, it means that he causes me. He causes me. And I want us to think about this in our own lives, that sometimes God will cause situations around us that will put us in situations to where we just absolutely have to rest. And also, when we think about this thing about green pastures, when you think about Jerusalem and Israel and people who've been to that area, the funny thing about that area, when you do some research on it and you look at it on the map, it's really a rocky area. There's not a lot of green pastures, but what happens is the only way you're going to find the green pastures is you have to know where they are. And typically they may be on hillsides or they may be on mountainsides. And especially after a rain, the shepherd knows where to go to the places to where the grass is growing. And what this is showing is David is saying something very powerful. That the shepherd knows where the spots are that the sheep need to rest. And what he does is he creates situations to give them rest. This is not necessarily referring to food, as we may think. Green pastures is a place of rest. It's a place of rest. And even though even though the sheep can graze, this is about a place of rest. Because one thing that the people of God need is the people of God need rest. We need rest. We need separation sometimes from the world, separation from the hustle and bustle of the world. Sometimes we need quiet places. We need places to where we can only be with ourselves, or maybe we can be with our family, and times of even meditation with God and prayer. And I love what David is saying. He's saying that the Lord, who is his shepherd, he causes him to lie down. He causes us to lie down. Man, sometimes we go through things in our lives, and I don't think we realize that sometimes something may happen to where you have to be off work and you can't go to work. Man, God is causing that. Sometimes we don't feel so good because we've overworked ourselves, or we've stressed ourselves out, or we've done too many things, and we find ourselves having to take a sick day. Well, guess what? God has caused. I'm not saying that God necessarily makes us sick, but God does sometimes have to make us settle down and understand that he has given us rest. And this last part here in verse 2, I love this. He says, he leads me beside the still waters. And I want you to see a theme that David is talking about here. He continues to talk about rest. He's talking about calmness of the still waters. I'm going to explain it here in just a second, but I want us to really think about what's being said. David is saying that the shepherd brings peace, rest. The shepherd brings peace. He brings tranquility. He brings he brings calmness in the life of the sheep. Because I want you to understand something about sheep. Sheep will not drink out of a raging river. They won't drink out of water that is topsy-turvy. They won't drink out of something that, they won't drink out of that type of water. And the reason why they don't drink out of that type of water, number one, the noise of the water, from what we have studied, the noise from the water makes them afraid. It makes them afraid to where they won't drink the water. And so the shepherd's job is he has to lead them to a place to where they will drink so that they can be nourished. And I want us to think about this in our own lives as we're getting ready to close right here. I want you to think about your life. How busy people are on social media. How busy people are with schedules. I think about my own children. It was so hectic for us about 3 years ago because we had all three of our sons playing high school football. One was on varsity, one was on JV, and then one was in middle school. And we were in a situation to where we were going to 2 games on Thursday, a game on Friday. My son had film work on Saturday morning. It was just nothing but chaos. Monday, and then you're taking them to all these 3 different practices, and then come home and everyone has homework, and I have ministry. My wife's working at the school. It's just nothing but just hustle and bustle. And we all find ourselves in those situations to where we just got these really, really busy schedules and we have no time for rest. The only time we have for rest, and I'm not talking about when we go to sleep, but because to me, that's not the only rest we need sometimes, because a lot of times we'll take the busyness over into our bedrooms and we can't even sleep at night. We're staying up worried about what we didn't do this day and what we got to do the next day. It's just hustle and bustle. It's nothing but a pure grind. But I notice these phrases. He says he makes me. That means he causes me to lie down, and then he leads me. He leads me to calmness. We got to take time. We have to take time and let God lead us to still waters so that we can have a drink from his word, a drink from being in prayer. Because I'm going to tell you something. With all that busyness that we have going on in our life, we become malnourished. We become not necessarily restless, but we have less rest. And what David is saying here is that if we'll follow God, if we'll make him the shepherd of our lives, he'll lead us to where we can rest. If we listen to him, he'll cause situations to where we can rest. If we'll follow him, he will lead us to calmness in our lives rather than always chaos and all of these different things going on in our lives. We need to be nourished in our lives, church. We need rest in our lives. And you think about Revelation 7:17, it says, "For the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne will shepherd them and lead them to living fountains of water." You know, in the past, in the first and second century church, they would actually sing Psalm 23 after someone was baptized. Because also they would look at Psalm 23 too, and I'm going to delve into this tomorrow a little bit more as it pertains to this restoration and you're thinking about water. But they also looked at the fact of leading the sheep to water was also a sign of baptism. And so what they would do, and I wish I could actually hear someone sing Psalm 23. If you've ever heard someone sing it, leave a comment below. But they would sing Psalm 23 after a baptism because they also looked at this, as it says, will shepherd them and lead them to living fountains of waters, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. So they looked at this in a very similar manner, that the leading to still waters is so we can drink the waters of Christ. We can drink the waters of salvation, drink the waters of God as they looked at it back then and the way David may be looking at it. But nevertheless, this is very, very powerful, church. So be aware when God brings you rest in your life. Be aware when God brings you some calmness. We need to take advantage of it and reflect on the fact that he is our shepherd. So tomorrow, until the next time, may the Lord bless you. May God keep you. To God be the glory. Peace.